saying goes. Right now, though, it's Leah Ferretti, director of Mississippi Ready. Leah, always good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Gerard. I am so excited to be here today and to talk about the movement that's moving across our nation.
It is. And so first, to tell the folks, you've been on before discussing this, but a reminder exactly what is Mississippi Ready, what's your mission, and how you personally got involved in that.
Okay, so Mississippi Ready is a movement. It's an initiative for school choice here in our great state. We believe that every child is unique and every child deserves a quality K-12 education that fits their unique needs. And my journey began over a decade ago on this parent choice journey when I didn't have a choice for my own children. And fast forward to today, here we are. As a parent, I saw quickly that there wasn't a road paved for us. There wasn't a road paved for what options are out there, how to navigate those options, because certain entities aren't going to tell you what your options are because they may want you to be locked cold into where you are. So just doing research and being a mama who wasn't willing to take no for an answer, Mississippi Ready was born, and we are ready to move forward with more quality K-12 education options in our state.
So as you have noted, I followed you, of course. I've known you for a long time, and you and I have been kind of joined hands working on this issue together. For quite some time, we've made little progress, honestly, in the state of Mississippi. But during the interim, all of our surrounding states, they've been full speed ahead with this.
Zoom, right? Yeah, everyone has passed us. Right now, I'm sure you have heard and the listeners have learned, Texas has passed universal school choice. So now they are the largest state in our nation, in our union, that has universal school choice. And Mississippi is the only state surrounded by other blue states, maybe, that doesn't have that freedom and doesn't have that option. And we do have some choices here in Mississippi, very limited options. Those options, my family was able to utilize that to further my children's education. There was a season in life where traditional public school just didn't work for my family. It wasn't what they needed. And I was able to use an ESA for my children because they qualified and customize their education early on to what they needed. Now, fast forward to today, we live in a different area, and they are able to assimilate into a traditional public school now. And that is the best fit in this season of life for my children.
Yeah, and you make a great point there that I think needs to be completely and continuously, I should say, reiterated, which is that the school choice does not mean some sort of intentional harm to public schools. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We want to see the public schools thrive and improve. And in your particular case, because you moved to an area where it turned out the public school was the best choice, you exercise that choice.
Yes, absolutely. And if you live in an area that has a great public school system, or the school is working for your family, that is fantastic. You should absolutely count your blessings and say your prayers every night, because not every Mississippi family is that lucky.
Right. And people aren't as mobile as often as thought. You'll hear people say, well, gee, if they just want to attend a better school, they just need to pick up and move.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't have that option.
No. Do you know that years ago, and I shall not name any names, a legislator told me and my husband, well, if you don't like your school, you should just up and move. Okay, buddy, because it's that easy. It's that easy to uproot our family, sell our home, shut the doors to our businesses, find another job, because it's that simple.
Yeah, it's not really a viable option, honestly. So, as you well know, we struggle here in Mississippi to get legislation across the finish line. We've had everything from just really simple, almost watered down public-to-public transfer, we call it open enrollment, all the way up to a phasing in of universal school choice, which is what Texas is doing, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee. They've all done that. Florida's had it for a long time, Arizona, Iowa. We could go down the list. Mm-hmm. I think there's some 16 now states total. But in Mississippi, we had just a real simple bill Representative Jansen Owen introduced, as you know, passed the House, which would have permitted total portability within the public schools. You live in a district, you're assigned to a school, but you want to attend a different one. The neither school could stand in the way of that unless there was a capacity issue on the part of the transferee school. But that went down to the Senate, and it didn't even get brought up in Senator Dennis DeBar's committee.
Which is mind-blowing, and it's so unfortunate because parents are speaking up. We are at a moment in our time, in our state, that parents, they know they have a voice. They're tired of seeing our neighboring states surpass us with more freedom and more education options, and parents are speaking up. And it's time that our lawmakers, whether it's one side or not, you need to start listening up. Look at Texas. Look what they did in the 2024 elections. They positioned themselves specifically to get school choice, to get parent choice, to get those freedoms pushed across the line. And here we are in Mississippi, surrounded. And it's vital. It's important that if we want to remain competitive, look at all the industry that's coming into our state and all these jobs. And if we want to remain competitive, if we want to keep growing, we've got to do this. We've got to do this, or our families are going to start leaving more than they already are.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we just can't seem to make any progress. So do you hear anything specifically, Leah, with respect to those in the legislature, in particular in the Senate, the Lieutenant Governor, Senator DeBar, who are no fans of almost any form of school choice? What do they tell you? What's the objection that you hear?
Well, I feel like a lot of times people speak out of both sides of their mouth, and they're not listening to their constituents, or not listening to their families. Just as we hear, there are certain opponents that we're tired of being lied to as parents. We are tired of being lied to, and we are tired of being bullied. So I feel like it's time for the Senate to step up, and you don't have to be bullied. You can listen to families and stand up for children and what's right.
The Speaker of the House, Jason White, is a strong proponent of education choice, and many in the House are as well. It's kind of striking, isn't it, that we have this just contrast between both of the chambers.
It is, and a lot of people from out of state will ask me, they're like, Leah, what's going on? You're a super majority there in Mississippi. What is going on? That's a great question. That's a great question, and I think you would have to ask those individuals themselves on why they won't move forward.
I've heard from the Lieutenant Governor, he's made it very clear he's just not a fan of what he calls public money being used for, say, private school vouchers. But even with respect to just open enrollment public to public, we couldn't get that through either.
Well, I think thinking of that as a narrative as public dollars, well, those aren't public dollars. Those are my children's education dollars.
Right.
And if you don't look at it like that, then it makes sense, right? The dollar should absolutely follow the child. And you remember when we changed the funding formula, there was a lot of pushback on that. And it kind of makes you wonder, well, why?
Yeah.
Why do we not want to know how much we are spending per student? Unfortunately, the business of education has become so inflated with administrative cost. As a classroom teacher, I have witnessed it firsthand. That money is not getting to the classroom where it belongs. It's not getting to those teachers' salaries where it belongs. When my husband moved me out of my last classroom, I cannot tell you how many boxes I had loaded up and packed with stuff. And he said, Leah, do we own all of this stuff? And I just kind of looked at him like, well, yeah, it just kind of happened. I don't know, just accumulated. If I needed it, I just would go buy it for my students.
There's what you're saying is true, but you weren't unique in that respect, right?
Absolutely.
Lots of these teachers.
All teachers.
Yeah, spend money out of their pocket to make sure their classroom has the stuff they need.
Every day, because they love their children, they love those students, and they want them to have the best learning environment possible. So teachers, they already have meager salaries here in Mississippi, and they will spend any penny they have to help their own children.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. My daughter, of course, was a teacher for 8 years, and I witnessed the same thing. What you're saying is exactly right. Seems like we got a little bit too much money going to where it shouldn't, as you say, not going into the classroom. Teachers shouldn't be bearing the burden of that expense whatsoever.
Absolutely not.
Stick around. We keep talking about this.
Yeah, let's.
We got Leah Ferretti, Director of Mississippi Ready, in the Element Wealth studio. We're talking to Leah Ferretti, the Director of Mississippi Ready. Talking about school choice. My daughter is 25 now, very successful. No thanks to government schools. She is mildly dyslexic. We got no empathy or help from an A school. We homeschooled from third grade on. And that's the point of choice, is it not, Leah? You can't just assume it's an A school, therefore they have all the resources necessary to handle these special cases.
Yes.
Now, we do have a dyslexia scholarship, thankfully, in the state of Mississippi, but it's hard to take advantage of that when you have to travel a long distance often.
Yes, well, with the dyslexia scholarship, there's only a handful of schools that are approved to do it. And I promise you, there are licensed dyslexia therapists at more schools than those handful of schools. Right now in the state of Mississippi, I think there's over 300 licensed dyslexia therapists, or we call them CALT, Certified Academic Language Therapist. Now, dyslexia is that's my love, because God has blessed me not to win the lottery, but to have 3 children with dyslexia, and they are on different ends of the spectrum. I've got one that's severe, one that's moderate, one that I was able to start therapy with her very early, which was a game changer. And to that parent saying, they were in an A school, that's what parent choice is about. Like you said, it doesn't matter if it's a school that it may be an A school, it could be fabulous, but it may not work for this individual student. All right, so you're not looking at this is something that droves and droves of kids might leave a public school system if they have universal school choice. Absolutely not. That is asinine. When people say, "Oh, public education is gonna fail if we have universal school choice or have any type of parent choice," that is insane. Look at all of our surrounding states. Look at all the other states that have parent choice. The sky has not fallen. In fact, it has improved outcomes for all schools across the board.
Yeah, and so the whole point of school choice is that proponents believe that families, parents, caretakers of children, are better equipped to decide on the appropriate and the optimum education setting. It's not about being in an A school or this school or that school. It's just there are multiple approaches to educating a child, as we well know now.
Yes.
We've innovated many different approaches. Let the parents choose the best for their child.
Yes, I know what works for my children. I know my children better than anyone in this world, and it's kind of insulting to insinuate that an institution should know my children better than I do and what works for them.
Yeah, and that's what this is really all about. So on the C Spire text line, let's see. Let me see. This person keeps sending lots of stuff here. Obviously, an opponent of school choice, and we respect.
That's okay.
Your opinion. Says that school choice is proven to have detrimental effect by a majority of good research. By all means, keep pushing this garbage. Well, I guess I would say to that is, well, that's the choice of whoever made it. So if it's not working out for them, so we need the government to tell them the way you need to do it is the best. I mean, they might as well be in the grocery store shopping with us for food. You can't buy that, buy that. It's
right.
It's the same sort
right.
of deal.
And to that listener, I will tell you, if this is garbage, let me tell you about the 16-year-old that I live with, my oldest son, that is finally successful in the classroom because I was able to customize his education according to his needs when there was a time that we didn't have an option, we didn't have a choice, and now he is an A-B, couple of C's, because C's get degrees in our house, C student, and he is happy to go to school. He loves his school. Actually, the other day, I was like, hey, you want to take a personal day and maybe go play top golf? He's like, no, Mom, I'm trying to get exempt. What 16-year-old tells you, hey, no, I've got to go to school because I want to get exempt? My 16-year-old is not the same child he was 10 years ago because of parent choice. So when you want to call it garbage, why don't you go look at that blue-eyed boy in his face and tell him, oh, that's garbage. No, ma'am, no, sir. It works.
Right. So also this person says, and that's a great story, by the way, admin costs are comprised of costs other than salaries. We acknowledge that. Mm-hmm. By the way, what do you think is a fair admin salary since you believe they are overpaid? Well, there are a whole bunch of people that work in administration. That's the first thing I'd say. So you can't just come up with like sort of a benchmark salary that would apply to all those jobs. And the second thing is I believe it's whatever the market will bear. The question is, do we have lots of jobs and are we spending lots of money on things we just don't need that aren't really enhancing the quality of education?
Let me give you an example, Gerard. I've worked in a school district where they hired an individual administratively, it worked at the central office, to make copies for the entire district. So that is an entire salary and benefits package to pay someone to make copies. I promise you, like, I am very capable adult that can make copies for my classroom on my own. So those are just examples.
That's crazy. Look, I've seen situations where the schools would purchase technology but not spend money to teach the teachers how to use the technology or the administrators, and it would just sit there.
All day, every day, and twice on Sundays. And it's the same with textbooks as well.
Yeah, good point. This person says, I'll look at the 1,000 of other children in the eyes who have been harmed. Well, so what you're saying is the parents harmed their children? Because this was a parent decision.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I'm not really sure.
I'm not following that.
I'm not. And it really, you could just take the improvement of outcomes, take that off the table. What's important here is freedom, is exercising freedom and choice. That's the point. And let the outcome be incumbent on those who made that decision. Right now, there's one decision maker. That's the government. And that's what this is all about, is trying to take that decision out of the hands of government and place it in the hands of the stakeholders. That would be the families of these children.
Yes, and you know what? We have freedom to grocery shop where we want to. I bet your listener I bet they shop at many different grocery stores. I bet they go to Walmart, Kroger, Sullivan's.
Yeah.
I know I do, because there are certain products at certain stores that I need, and that they don't sell at other stores. So I have the freedom to do that. We have the freedom to choose in any other entity in our lives and in our country except for education. And it really is. It's really crazy to think that you don't have that freedom.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's what this is really the crux and the underlying goal. That's why we call it education freedom. And those who say, well, they don't pay their taxes. Well, think about this. They don't pay taxes to fund that, to have that choice, because a lot of people don't pay income taxes or pay a very low level, but they all pay sales taxes. And sales taxes are the major source of revenue to our state government. And what we typically talk about in terms of a school choice program is simply allowing the students' money allocated to them at the state level to be directed to the education setting of their choice. They're paying for it, no doubt about it. It's just, you're going to get the same series of objections.
But it's a series of tired objections,
I agree.
Right?
Long in the tooth.
Yes, I feel like parents have woken up and we're tired. We're tired of these false narratives and this fear-mongering propaganda. We're tired of it, and we're speaking up.
Yeah, that's all there is to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. And this idea again that the goal here is to destroy public education, this is such a ruse. It's not the truth. The goal is to actually make it better.
Yes.
And knowing that they have a little competition, little competitive threat.
Kind of hurts some feelings, doesn't it?
It does, because they're accustomed to being protected. And when you're protected, the tendency is to get complacent. And complacency breeds mediocrity. What we're trying to do here is produce excellence.
Yes.
Competition produces excellence.
Amen.
And that's what we need to be doing. Well, hopefully our Senate in particular is paying attention to states like Texas.
I think they are.
That was a big deal
at this point,
big deal in
right?
Texas. Yeah, I think so, and I hope so. And we're going to keep pushing for it. It's the right thing to do. I believe, and so do a lot of other people believe that as well. How can you be opposed to freedom? I don't get that.
Well, if you're a true American, right? Like, that's what we're here for,
That's
right?
at the heart of this.
Yes.
we're going to keep working on it. We're going to get it
Let's do
done. And I'm so pleased to see that Texas has crossed the threshold. And it was not without a great deal of effort from a lot of people. And Governor Greg Abbott, he made it a priority, and he got it done.
He sure did. You know what happens in Texas doesn't always stay in Texas. So, Mississippi, we are ready. Check us out at MississippiReady.org and follow us on all social media platforms.
That's Leah Ferretti, Director of Mississippi Ready. Thanks for coming in. Always good talking to you. Yep. We're stepping aside for a break, coming right back with half an hour of middays in the Element Wealth studio.